Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless Blades coming at you today with a look at a company who I saw for the first time at SHOT Show 2025. This here is Olfa Works, and Olfa is a company who makes crafting blades, utility blades, and when it comes now to the outdoor space, their Olfa Works lineup, these are made in Japan, excellent, high quality, but a few things that you're going to see that I think are really cool. Now, first off, I've been taking a look at this small little utility camp knife, and the key thing with Olfa, well, a lot of what they do is replaceable and retractable blades. And so this right here is a very simple little utility camp knife. Again, replaceable blade. Nice quality stainless steel. It's actually going to be a high carbon stainless steel, so you get a little bit in terms of the edge retention and toughness that you need, but stainless properties at the same time. But what I really like about what this company's doing, they're making very slim and packable blades that I think a lot of people would really enjoy for things that, like for example, like bushcraft kits, things like that, where they want to make kits and just have a good quality sharp blade with them. And where many of these are replaceable, you can kind of use it and abuse it, not feel too bad about it, and then simply replace the blade. Now that's the case for 3 of these models here. Then we have a fixed blade, which is a dedicated bushcraft knife. So in today's video, we will go through all of these in detail. Then in the future, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to build these into kits, because the creation of kits, it's fun, very enjoyable, has excellent utility purpose, but then it really does show and demonstrate how these can be used effectively. So with that, let's get into the details. And so perhaps the most basic of the bunch is this utility camp knife. Again, very simple, extremely low profile, as you can see here, slips in a pack, slips in a kit, could easily be part of a more comprehensive kit, and just gives you a very serviceable blade for general utility tasks. Now, as you take a look at the business end, you can see fairly aggressive in terms of the fact that not only do you have this really keen, sharp edge on the utility blade itself, but you get a couple of real gnarly serrations and a bottle opener, which is really cool. So this is a combination blade capable of doing some serious work. And as you look at how the light is glinting off of that edge, not only is it very sharp, but you'll see what they did is interesting in the design, where it's almost chisel ground, but it's not. As you take a look at this side, a real heavy, deep grind. And then as we rotate the blade over here, it's not quite as sharp of an angle. So it's giving you a compound angle on this blade, but it's definitely going to be, in my opinion, better than a chisel ground blade, which I personally don't like, and that's what you usually get on a utility knife. But at the same time, they're not going so far as to spend a ton of money on what's pretty much a replaceable throwaway blade. So you're kind of getting that sweet spot right in between, where you have a nice V grind, but it's just serviceable at the same time. So again, really cool. Now this is again made in Japan with SUS 420 steel. If you think of like 420 high carbon, this is going to be a little more stainless, fairly low on the Rockwell, 52 HRC, in that range. So if you are going to damage your edge, chances are pretty good you're probably going to actually bend this versus snapping it, which is not a bad thing. And that is a real nice blade shape where you end up with a very fine and refined tip. And I mentioned that in combination with the HRC, because if you were going to use this for any sort of prying, I would say, I'd recommend against that for a number of reasons, but you definitely can do some nice detailed tasks, digging out splinters, getting in under fine threads if you needed to make gear repairs. Just a cool, simple blade. Now you can see here this little brass knob release that, slide that back, retract it, and you definitely need to tighten these down. These come super tight from the factory, so I actually personally needed to get on mine with a little pair of pliers. It was very simple, but you do want to definitely tighten these down because the blade obviously slides forward and you don't want it to accidentally slide forward while it's in your kit. So tighten that down, no problem. On the back side, you'll see there is a lanyard hole, and in fact, this does come with a lanyard. Very simple packaging, but again, coming with a nice little lanyard. Now, this does not necessarily feel like 550 cord. You'll notice that that is very stretchy and flexible, which is cool in its own way, but you may want to think about, if you're building a multi-purpose kit, replace this with 550 cord so you get all those nice inner strands, and that really does give this some additional utility purpose. So that, my friends, is the utility camp knife. Which now the larger version, similar but different, this here is the outdoor utility knife. So the same premise where you have the retractable blade and that lanyard. However, in this case, a much larger handle. So the ability to grip more like a standard knife, fill out your hands, and you can see an overall excellent handle shape. Very comfortable. It does have this little bit of a hook on the back side, which I think is interesting. And I'll be honest, I'm not really too sure what that's for. But that is a sort of metal pick. And Olfa Works does indicate that you could potentially use this like a screwdriver, the ability to like dig things out or like reach into cracks. So kind of just a cool and unique feature. Very simple. And then in terms of the blade on that business end, this is SK81 steel, which my research indicates is almost the equivalent of Japanese D2. So that kind of gives you an understanding of what you're looking at. But again, a replaceable blade. So if this goes dull on you or you chunk an edge, you can simply replace it. Very simple. And that is really cool. Now this edge is extremely sharp. I mean, crazy sharp. So not only are you getting a ridiculously thin edge, but a crazy sharp blade, and this is going to carve like wild. In terms of like your ability to get some dainty fine feathers, this is going to be insanely effective from what I can tell. Loosen that, slide it back into place, and you can see that will come all the way out if you're not careful. But again, tightening that down, and at a certain point, that does lock. So that's pretty cool the way they've done that. Not only do you have the ability to retract the blade, so in, lock it, nice and sturdy, no problem. Release, slide that back, and it will stay put. But if you keep releasing this, at some point, that's how you're going to replace your blade. So very simple, extremely easy, and very effective. So a great design. Now, in terms of the handle material, they're saying this is an acetone resistant material. Now, I don't know exactly what it is, but you have some sort of a polymer with a rubberized overmold, and it is very comfortable. Great shape, excellent general ergonomic feel, fills out the hands nicely, and with that blade, and especially being replaceable, really cool. And fairly thin at the same time. The interesting thing about this is you'll notice that they did opt to kind of sculpt it so that one side has a little bit of a swell, the other side is flat. So probably going to be a little more comfortable for right-handed users. A little bit of rubberized jimping over the top. For lefties, definitely doable, no problem, but you're just not going to get the benefit of that little bit of a swell in your palm as you fill it out. But at the same time, really cool blade. So that is the outdoor utility knife, which now brings us to the Bushcraft saw. Again, very similar, where you end up with your little lanyard, and then the saw, a retractable design. In comparison to the outdoor knife, you can see just a little bit bigger, slightly larger overall dimensions and geometry. This one in tan, you can see the rest were in olive. That is something worth noting, is that you do end up with a two different colorways, so the tan or the green. And in this particular case, a Japanese style pull saw design, so kind of like a silky, and SK85 steel, which if you've been watching my channel, or most of you are probably familiar with Work Tough Gear, who uses SK85 all of the time. In fact, that's the steel that Work Tough pretty much built their brand on. So Olfa opting to use SK85 with their Bushcraft saw, and again, a replaceable blade. So very similar, where you end up with those real gnarly teeth, very sharp, very, very sharp. Again, pull style, retractable, so you can take the blade, retract it away. You have the same general handle ergonomics here with the one-sided palm swell. You don't have that hook on the bottom here, but you do end up with the lanyard hole, the ability to attach that lanyard. And as you loosen this far enough after a given point, you'll see that does release. Swap out your blade, get that back inside, tighten everything down, no problem. Now, testing will prevail. I don't expect to have any problems with this mechanism, but you got to imagine something like a saw is going to introduce that forwards and back motion, which will be right in line with the mechanism. So it'll be fun to test this eventually, and we'll see how that holds. And again, I will be building this into a Bushcraft kit. Now, crazy lightweight. This stuff is so simply light that there's no reason not to have a good quality saw with you. It's fairly compact, and of course, especially once you install the blade, very light, basically indestructible materials from the standpoint that you can't hurt it with chemicals. You could throw it around. It's cheap, and even if you damage this, it's not a big deal. And if you damage your blade, you can replace the blade. These products are just super, super cool. So again, Olfa works here with the Bushcraft saw, and such an awesome blade, especially being SK85. I'm actually pretty excited to test this. Which now leaves us with the Sanga Bushcraft knife. Coming in a 13 CR stainless steel, so not a high end by any means. And this is definitely a much more expensive knife. This lands you in over the $100 mark at the time of this video. And there are going to be a lot of options in this particular price range and general knife class. But at the same time, full tang design all the way through. Excellent quality handle. Polymer with the over molded rubber. Very comfortable in the hand. And this kind of reminds me of, a higher end Mora knife, where you end up with that full tang construction, good quality handles. You can see it is bolt-on scales. Over the top, it's not really like a true 90-degree spine, but I would say it kind of is, from the standpoint that is nice and sharp and squared off, and you will definitely be able to rip a ferro rod, do some good quality scraping of fuzz and whatnot. Saber grind design, so you can see a 2/3 height saber grind. There is a shelf here, so as you see that little, the relief there as the ricasso comes up and then into that shoulder. So that high 2/3 saber grind, secondary bevel, pretty even. It's definitely sharp. To me, a lot of people will probably eventually tune this up. I would say with a leather strop, fine ceramic rod, that should work out just fine. Simple drop point, or kind of like a clip point-ish design. So very, straightforward. It's a very simple design, but that's good. And that's exactly what you want for a Bushcraft style blade. Polymer sheath, right hand only. So as you take a look here, right hand only. Again, this package made in Japan. Little bit of rattle, but at the same time, that knife is not coming out. So even though it's a little bit noisy, you're not going to have any problems. The ability to lash I think the idea being potentially lash this onto gear. And then in terms of deployment, very simple. So the knife comes out easily, but at the same time, stays in good and firm. 3.2 millimeters on the stock thickness, so right around 1/8 of an inch. And again, just a cool blade, whether you go with the green or the tan. Nice offering from Olfa Works. Now, there's no doubt that the products that capture my attention the most are the collapsible blades. I do like their Bushcraft knife, but in my opinion, there's probably other options out there that are equal, if not higher quality, and for the same dollar amount. So it's kind of, in my opinion, like a value thing. But where Olfa Works is setting themselves apart and really setting the bar, in my opinion, it's on these retractable blades. I absolutely love these designs. I think they're extremely useful. Again, something that everybody could definitely use and can afford, very reasonable in terms of their price, and the ability to replace the blades, totally awesome. So while you're building out your kits, if you're building a hiking, camping, backpacking kit, these would be fantastic. If you're building yourself a bushcraft kit, these would also be fantastic. A bug out bag, there you go. Have some simple tools that just work together and are easy, and you could actually get yourselves probably a couple replacement blades to have in the kit just in case things really went sideways. But I do think what we're going to find is these blades will last for a good long time and far beyond my review testing, and should perform well. I have already taken the small utility blade and integrated this into my daily rotation. This lives within my everyday carry system. So very simple and very cool. And so with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for following along. If you like these products, do me a favor. Look in the description box below where you can find all of the relevant links for where you can find your own Olfa and Olfa Works products. High quality crafting, utility blades, outdoor blades, now here with the Olfa Works series. Thank you to the people at Olfa Works who did provide these for review. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor. Take a look at my Outer Limitless family of channels. You're here today on Outer Limitless Blades, taking a look at all of the sharp and pointy things. We have Outer Limitless, which is my primary channel, hiking, camping, backpacking, outdoor experiences where I use this stuff. Then we have the Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things, and Outer Limitless Lights, which is headlamps, EDC lighting, indoor, outdoor lighting, you name it. That's the Outer Limitless family of channels. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.